Hello and welcome to Network. My name is Phumelele Zondi with your technology and social media news. It is SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. News Network at sabc.co.za on email. Remember to constantly sanitize your hands or wash them with soap and water, and wear that face mask if you are in crowded spaces. Today I am in the township of Woodlands, just outside Pietermaritzburg. This is because our Twitter poll this week is looking at research that says township residents prefer using WhatsApp as their method of social media communication. We are asking you on Twitter, which method do you prefer? Results of that are coming up later in the program. Firstly, here's what's coming up tonight. We look at the Protection of Personal Information Act coming into effect on the 1st of July. We go to Cape Town, where Amazon Web Services plans to open an Africa headquarters. Not everyone is happy about this. And in our discussion, we will chat about malware on Android devices. The Protection of Personal Information Act looks at those that advertise various things to us over the phone. It says they can't really do this unless we've given them permission to get our information, but it goes beyond that. It also affects what we share on social media. Cindy Mbata says she used to upload photos of friends, family, and her daughter on social media without asking for permission.
I used to post a lot. I used to do it a lot and I never had a problem with it. I am a culprit of posting my kids and and without even their consent sometimes.
Cindy says it's her daughter who'd sometimes be uncomfortable with this.
Even if you talk to them and you just found out that they're not feeling comfortable even themselves, because they will say that, "Mom, I don't want you to put this picture." You know, they said to me they've been taught at school about human trafficking, that they should be aware of it. And they said that, you know, even people that are stealing kids, they found them in pictures.
From July 1, she won't be allowed without the daughter's permission. She cannot upload photos of friends, family, and other people without their approval either. The Protection of Personal Information Act, or POPI, comes into full swing soon.
If someone shares your photos, they must get consent unless there are exclusions. If it was a photo that was taken during a personal or household activity, for example, someone is taking a photo at a beach with their family, and that's a household activity. So that one is exclusive, or unless your photo is shared or is needed for national security, where maybe they want to do investigation or maybe for unlawful activities. So that one is excluded. Also, I must say, also for journalistic, artistic or literary expressions. So that is excluded.
POPI aims to protect the abuse of personal information of South Africans. It even blocks telemarketers who call us without permission from doing so.
The Consumer Protection Act has an opt-out model, which then means that for each direct marketing approach in the market, a consumer has to be given the opportunity to opt out from receiving that marketing. Now, with POPI coming into force on the 1st of July, it takes it a step further. It now also requires that all consumers must explicitly give their consent before their details can be used. And that specifically also relates to direct marketing. So a company cannot just approach any consumer now and just have an opt-out and think that they are applying to the regulations and the requirements of the law.
And if they persist, as it is expected that some will ignore the law and continue to do this, then you can take action.
What the Codes Project is that WASPA has gone and taken all short codes, long codes and USSD codes utilized by WASPA members and put that into one database. Consumers can now go to this facility and enter any of these numbers. For example, if you've received a direct marketing message, you can now take that message, insert it onto this platform, and this platform will then give you information about who sent the message, but it will also give you further information. It will give you contact details as well as an email address. So consumers will now be empowered to actually contact these companies to ask them to either remove them from their direct marketing databases and to desist from sending them any further marketing information.
And if they don't want to play by the book, you can ask for assistance from law enforcement authorities.
So they'll either have to lodge a complaint with ICASA, the National Consumer Commission, or with the information regulator, depending on the scenario and what the potential breach is.
This means businesses and those they employ need to familiarize themselves with the POPI Act. Now, Amazon Web Services plans to open its Africa headquarters in Cape Town in South Africa, but not everyone is happy about this, as producer Sandile Hlangani tells us.
An ancient dispute over land has been stirred up by Amazon's choice of spot for its new headquarters in Cape Town. The location is of huge significance to indigenous communities. 500 years ago, the Khoisan San people drove back Portuguese raiders on this spot. Now protesters want their history marked and not with an Amazon office. Toreng Yankis was among leaders of a protest march.
The threat of the monolith of Amazon on the embankments of our most sacred floodplains will not be accepted by our communities. That this is a place where the first frontier wars were fought. It is a ground zero precinct. And what we want is a World Heritage Site.
Amazon.com is an American technology company which focuses on e-commerce, cloud computing, and digital streaming. The riverside property was previously home to a golf driving range and bar, but it's now set for a major development with Amazon as the anchor tenant. It's been approved by the city's mayor, but opponents aren't giving up. Leslie London leads one community association fighting the plans.
It's got an environmental authorization that is despite many and multiple objections and appeals, which were essentially ignored. So the only recourse now is to go to court.
Amazon couldn't comment on the protests, referring all queries to the developers. They say the project will create thousands of jobs and feature an indigenous garden and heritage center.
Our local celebrities are people who also love various technologies. We thought we'll check in with them from time to time to find out which technologies they love using the most. Let's start with Andile Nebulana, who is an actor on Generations, The Legacy.
Size apha kuni sizokuninika imbeko nenhlonipho bantu base-Alexandra.
My favorite device currently is obviously my phone. It's an iPhone 7 Plus, 256 gigabytes. Yeah, I've got other little devices that are live. I'm not a fan of gadgets, but when I find a gadget that I love, I really fall in love with it, like this one. Well, one of my favorite features is actually the camera, because obviously I work with it. It's like my working studio, my working office, my everything. It's got a number of apps that I use for my fitness and for my health purposes. Like I can check my heartbeat, I can check how bad or how good I did at the gym. Like this morning I went for a run. I was just running for fun. I didn't tell myself Guti, I'm gonna run 5Ks or 10Ks, but at the end when I got back home, it told me Guti, you ran 10 kilometers and you lost so many calories. I use my phone as a navigator most of the time, especially when I recently moved to Johannesburg from Cape Town. My phone was my lifesaver. I remember it died this other time and I was in the middle of Pretoria and I almost lost my mind. I didn't have a car charger. So that's how, when I realized how important this little guy is in my life. And now with the times, with this pandemic and everything, like it's basically everything. My meetings, my coaching sessions, because I coach as well, and even if I'm having a session with an acting coach, I have it here instead of having to go to someone's studio.
It's SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. News Network at sabc.co.za. On email. After the break, we chat malware on Android devices with Hadley Simons. It is SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. News Network at sabc.co.za. On email. Welcome back. Now, Google has said that they've deleted a number of applications from their App Store, and this is because they were found to be causing malware on Android devices. Now, Apple CEO Tim Cook has also said that there's more malware on Android devices than Apple devices. He's also complained about what is called side loading. Now, this is when you don't use their App Store or Play Store to download some of the apps that you use, and you find alternative means of getting those apps on your Apple devices. That could be your iPhone, your iPad, or any other Apple device, really. Now, to help us understand matters a little bit more is Hadley Simons from Android Authority. Hello, Hadley, and thank you very much for being a part of our network. Now, how prevalent is the problem of malware on Android devices, and how is this often disguised on our devices?
So we do see a lot of malware on Android, and these forms of malware often take the form of fake apps containing the malware. So some of the most popular categories are like games and like beauty filter apps and camera apps, and a lot of utility apps also can have malware in them. We've seen things like flashlight apps, torch apps, that sort of thing, that and calculators that end up having malware in them. Obviously, it's not all of them, but it is a popular target for cybercriminals.
Apple CEO Tim Cook has mentioned this to be a problem as well. Tell us about what Tim Cook said.
Tim Cook has also said that allowing side loading on Apple devices, that is, allowing people to install apps from places other than the App Store, would present issues for the company. And that is true. There are security and privacy risks to doing this, because apps wouldn't have to abide by the App Store's rules if they can be downloaded from places other than the App Store. So, for example, Apple has its tracking transparency tool, which a requirement which when you download an app from the App Store, it will outline how your data is being used. Apps downloaded from places other than the App Store wouldn't necessarily have to abide by those restrictions. So there is, a privacy risk, there are security risks.
But we can also assume that this is not based on just Tim Cook worried about Android devices or people side loading onto Apple devices. It's also about business as well, right?
I think another reason why there's some skepticism about Apple talking about side loading and all this sort of things is that they demand that a 30% cut, of sales generated via an app in the App Store. So, for example, if you want to renew your subscription to Spotify via the App Store app, via the iPhone app, Spotify has to give 30%. Sometimes this figure varies, but they have to give quite a slice of this revenue to Apple, and they can't explicitly tell people in the Spotify app that they can go to the website for a cheaper price, because if you're buying the Spotify subscription via the website, it's cheaper because they aren't giving any extra money to Apple. Developers on the App Store can't explicitly tell their consumers that they can buy it, they can get cheaper in-app purchases via a website. It's also worth noting that Apple's reason for opposing side loading isn't entirely due to privacy and security. Apple has, it would be all well and good if Apple does this, but also is fair in its App Store processes and approval processes, and what it allows on the App Store and what it doesn't. But we have seen Apple bar apps that are perfectly fine from its App Store before. One example is Microsoft's xCloud service, which lets you remotely stream Xbox games to your phone without the need for an Xbox console.
Now, with the problems that we're talking about when it comes to Android devices, is there anything that Google is doing about this?
It offers security patches, updates on its devices regularly. It does have the Google Play Protect system, which is kind of like an antivirus system in a way, where it scans your apps continuously to detect any malware, malicious software, and blocks these apps accordingly, So there are those measures in place. And also by default, out of the box, your Android phone doesn't allow you to sideload apps out of the box. So you have to specifically enable an app, like for example your Chrome browser, to install apps. So most people that don't know what sideloading is and stick to the Play Store, that's perfectly fine.
All right, Hedley Simons from Android Authority, thank you very much for being a part of our network. And with that, let's take a quick break. It is the SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. News Network at sabc.co.za. On email, we are in the township of Woodlands outside Pietermaritzburg. This, as in a minute, we'll be looking at a report that says many residents of townships in South Africa prefer using WhatsApp as their method of communication when on social media. But first, let's take a look at what else happened in the technology world in the rest of the globe.
India's technology minister says Twitter had deliberately defied and failed to comply with the country's new IT rules, which became effective in May. The new rules, announced in February this year, are aimed at regulating content on social media firms such as Facebook, its WhatsApp Messenger, and Twitter, making them more accountable.
Others have followed, they have not followed. There is a proper rule, Rule 7 of the guideline, which says if you don't comply with the guideline, then the consequence is, under Section 79, you may lose your intermediary status. And you may become liable to other laws, including penal laws of the country.
The new rules also require social media companies to set up grievance mechanisms and appoint new executives to coordinate with the law enforcement.
When Indian pharma companies go to manufacture medicine in America, do they follow American laws or not? If you have to do business in India, you're welcome to criticize the Prime Minister, all of us, we welcome that. But you'll have to obey the Constitution of India and you'll have to obey the rules of India.
New Delhi-based digital advocacy group Internet Freedom Foundation said it was only up to courts and not government to decide whether companies such as Twitter remained intermediaries for alleged non-compliance, such as appointment of executives. In the US, a US auto safety regulator says they have opened 30 investigations into Tesla's crashes involving 10 deaths since 2016, where advanced driver assistance systems were suspected of use. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration released a list offering details about crashes under review by its Special Crash Investigations programs. Of the 30 Tesla crashes, the agency has ruled out Tesla's autopilot in 3 and published reports on 2 of the crashes. Autopilot, which handles some driving tasks, was operating in at least 3 Tesla vehicles involved in fatal US crashes since 2016. The agency has criticized Tesla's lack of system safeguards for autopilot. The issue has gotten new attention after a scorching April 17 Texas crash that killed 2 men in Texas, in which police had said they believed no one was behind the wheel.
All right, so throughout the program, we have been telling you why we are in the township of Woodlands outside Pietermaritzburg. This is because the 2021 Township Marketing Report says a lot of residents in townships prefer using WhatsApp as their method of communication when on social media. So this week, our Twitter poll is asking you, which method of communication do you prefer using when on social media? Now, 42% of those that responded to our poll say they prefer using WhatsApp. there's 49% in the majority. Those are people who say they prefer using Twitter, but maybe that's also because the poll was conducted on Twitter, or perhaps it could be because that the majority of people that responded to our poll differ with the township report because they don't live in the township themselves. And then we have 3% who love Instagram and 6% who say they love Facebook. But it also is worth noting that the 2021 Township Marketing Report only surveyed about 1,000 people. And I wonder if they surveyed people in different townships in this vast country of ours that is South Africa. And that's it. That's all we have for you. Find us on SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It is News Network at sabc.co.za on email. From me, Siphumelele Zondi, and the rest of the team right here in the township of Woodlands in Pietermaritzburg. Bye-bye. Have a good one.